I want to say a shout out section here. Just let us know how you're doing, how everything else is going. If you need help with anything, also let us know how you feel about the topics that we're bringing up. Just to catch you up to speed a little bit, we just played a clip from President Trump. But we're going to be at a national level in these advisory lockdown periods at least until April 30th to try and stave off some of what the models are predicting here. And before we get more back into the local version of this news, and in part the main reason why I want to focus on this program today is that the future is yet to be written. Let me just go ahead and play here as I'm getting an indication that says my live broadcast is being interrupted. Shine, you still looking good on your end? Yeah, everything's looking good over here. So anyways, I'll go ahead and see if we can play this video here from Dr. Fauci. Let me know
Grant,
what y'all
it does look like we lost the Facebook feed.
Okay.
I don't know what happened, but for a minute I lost your Zoom feed. For a minute, it may come back on Facebook. Let's just wait just a second, because it just came back on the YouTube. If you're still watching live anywhere, we're using a new thing that we weren't using last week, and we're just waiting to see if it pops back up on the Facebook. Let's see.
Yeah, so we may still be running live somewhere. I'll just keep going on with what I was saying.
We're definitely still live on YouTube right now, so you can keep going, and I'll let you know what's going on.
Right. Well, again, that's part of the reason why I wanted to stress today the idea about the future not being written yet is, look, that there's going to be a lot of sorrowing stories. And for those that are still watching us, still connected right now as we get back up and rolling on Facebook here, and it looks like some portion of this might be rolling live again. I don't know. We'll figure that out again in a second here.
You just keep going. I'll keep plugging away at that, Grant. I think we're going to come back on Facebook here in a minute.
Good deal. Well, I'll play this video then too. We're getting stories now out of Knoxville that the amount of suicides that are coming out, I suppose due to a mix of a number of different stories of the sensationalizing that some of the news outlets are running through right now, of some of the just general stories as to sort of the apocalyptic nature of this illness, right? Of the future projections of what may or may not happen going on right now, of potentially losing your job and not losing your job. That's why I'm trying to stress this idea one more time, that the future has yet to be written. That we are the ones that are going to be writing our future through our actions daily, and through daily making order out of this chaos that we've been thrust upon us right now, that we've been thrust into right now. It is up to us to not just make order out of this chaos, but to write that future. And nothing is done yet. Nothing is solidified yet. I mean, if you are feeling those feelings at all, I'll throw up the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number in the Facebook and the YouTube chats here in a second. We'll put that on our Real News page, because if anyone is close to that, we're getting stories out of Knox County anyways, that in the last sort of 48 hours, I think this is as of Friday, in the last sort of 48 hours, there was 9 suicides in that 48-hour period. And there's another story that I want to say, I have it pulled up here in just a second, another story that's doesn't matter, I'll find a second, but was reporting that the number of suicides nearly doubled the number of deaths of coronavirus in this state in that 48-hour period of time, right?
Yes. So, and I think Governor Lee highlighted it. I think that's why it made the news. But that's coupled with the Knox County story, where we had 10% of what we normally have in a year in 2 days.
Right.
In Knox County.
Right. And I think we're back on live again here. So,
yep,
so
we're good to go. You just keep going.
Let me play this video from Dr. Fauci here, just talking about the response that Trump has issued to what's going on currently. I think breaking down a little bit more of the figures, and then we'll get into what I was talking about, the suicides that were happening in Knox County, hear from Mayor Jacobs a little bit as well, and just try and pump some positivity into what's going on. But here we'll hear from Dr. Fauci.
Yes, we feel that the mitigation that we're doing right now is having an effect. It's very difficult to quantitate it because you have 2 dynamic things going on at the same time. You have the virus going up and you have the mitigation trying to push it down. But the decision to but to extend this mitigation process until the end of April, I think was a wise and prudent decision.
Nothing would be worse than declaring victory before the victory is won. We will be extending our guidelines to April 30th to slow the spread.
Again, so that's a little bit of what you're hearing. Dr. Fauci responding just in a very quick manner, saying what we're trying to do is use these mitigation factors, if you will, to slow what we're predicting is about to come. Okay. And Shine, in that vein, buddy, let me just go ahead and jump into this large portion of the story. What I really wanted to get to today. I'll post this story in the Real Newsroom if you want to hear it. But this is what I'm saying, okay? 101-year-old man who survived the 1918 flu beats coronavirus as well. All right, man? Like nobody's
This
future.
is an unbelievable story. It's an unbelievable story, and I want to credit one of our great volunteers and leaders in Americans Prosperity Knoxville, Nathan Keeble, for bringing this to Grant and I's attention.
Yes. Here we go. His family brought him home yesterday evening to teach us that even at 101 years old, hear this, please, hear this, even at 101 years old, the future is yet to be written. There's those who have been around the block, and then there's a guy, a 101-year-old Italian man who survived the 1918 flu, World War, and now the coronavirus. What did you do today? It says, right? A patient known as Mr. P was admitted last week to this particular hospital in Italy after testing positive for COVID-19. Now, Mr. P was born in 1919 as the 1918 flu pandemic, which would go on to kill an estimated 600,000 Italians alone. 600,000 Italians alone was in full swing. And on Wednesday night, at 101 years old, at 101, some odd years later, Mr. P was discharged from the hospital and taken home by his family. The vice mayor of this area provided a statement to local newspapers that roughly translated reads as this: given the progress of the virus, it could not even be called a story like many if it were not for the detail that makes this life of this person returned to their loved ones a truly extraordinary one. Saying he was born in 1919 in the midst of another tragic world pandemic. He saw everything: hunger, pain, progress, crisis, resurrections, reconstructions. Even over the 100 years of that barrier, fate has put this new challenge before him, invisible and terrible at the same time. Last week, Mr. P was hospitalized in this area after testing positive for COVID-19. In a few days, it became history for doctors, nurses, and the rest of the healthcare personnel who had treated him. A hope for the future finds itself in the body of a person over a century old. As the sad chronicles of these weeks mechanically tell, every day the virus, this is raging, especially in the elderly. But again, Sean, the reason I wanted to bring this up is as of this writing, as the writing of that article, Italy at the time was leading the world in deaths and actually, confirmations of the infection. Now, obviously, we've taken that over since then. But I wanted to bring that up just in the sense of, man, every single time you hear, not every single time, but there's a way you can find a story for a person that's 190 plus years old that's overcome and beat this thing. As many as you're seeing media stories push something out there about an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old dying from this thing. All right. I'm just trying to maintain and keep some perspective here as well, that our future is not written, our economic future is not written, our spiritual future is not written on any of this stuff. We are the ones that are making this future as we go along. And again, one more time, let me quote from Butterfield here: sheer grimness of sufferings brings men sometimes into a profounder understanding of human destiny. It is only by cataclysm that man can make his escape from the net which he has taken so much time and trouble to weave around himself. So when I go to some of these stories, Shine, that I'm reading, that in Knox County, I'm looking at this story right here. Knox County was this WATE talking about the suicide rate: 9 individuals in a 48-hour period. Let's see, 9 individuals, 9 suspected suicides, 8 from Knox County alone. This is something that Mayor Jacobs was reporting on recently. When I'm hearing some of these stories about these people committed suicide, whether it's because of potential economic situations or the way that the media is reporting on this or something, if this is overwhelming you, I don't know. That future is not written yet, right?
That's right.
A way, right? I mean, we can come together, get over this thing, and we're going to be much, much stronger than I think we ever were before.
Well, like I said, and I think the things that you're hearing from the federal government about the danger to you individually is very, very low. When people are talking about the danger, and really what the hysteria is all about, is the danger to institutions and wondering how their ability to handle certain things. But a lot of that's being worked on. I mean, we've drastically increased the amount of respirators and companies making respirators and PPE and all that. I mean, the entire American continent is fighting this virus. So like, even I think our institutions are in good place. You got a lot of money flowing around. There's not a lot of reason to be sitting in a corner crying yourself to sleep right now. It's not that bad. Everything that's going on right now is preventative measures, especially here in the state of Tennessee. It's not crazy, but definitely take time and count your blessings. I mean, there's so many things in my life that that I had not recognized that were just so amazing that the past couple weeks shown me that, and that's something that helps too as well. But yeah,
Well,
definitely your future's not written, and even more importantly, right now with all this going on, we're gonna have a huge part to play as far as being authors of the future, because so much is in flux right now. We're gonna have a huge part of creating. Almost like a new epoch, Grant, like a new phase in history. Like they say, the post World War II era. So much is going to change in the next few months. People might look back and say the post coronavirus era. Who knows?
and I'm telling you right now, okay, there's obviously some sayings. I think C.S. Lewis wrote this about a while back. At least my wife actually gave this to me, saying that C.S. Lewis wrote something to this effect in 1942. And take the metaphysical claims out of it if you want to, but just tell me this isn't exactly what's happening right now, and tell me this is not exactly what we should be focusing on right now as well. All right, he says, go on. It's going to get slightly religious, so just deal with it. But he goes on to say, Satan, quote, "I will cause anxiety, fear, and panic. I will shut down business, schools, places of worship, and sporting events. I will cause economic turmoil." If you don't want to cause, if you don't say that's Satan, cool. Say coronavirus, say pandemic, say whatever else. But the situation that we are dealing with currently is exactly this: anxiety, fear, panic, shutdown of businesses, schools, place of worship, sporting events, and everything else. Look what's coming out of this, though, buddy. Look what's coming out of this shine. Now, C.S. Lewis says Jesus here is quoting and saying, "I will bring together neighborhoods, restore the family unit. I will bring dinner back to the kitchen table. I will help people slow down their lives and appreciate what really matters. I will teach my children to rely on me and not the world. I will teach children to trust me and not their money, not material resources." All right. So again, take those metaphysical claims out if you want to. I don't care. But tell me that's not exactly what's happening. We were walking around here the other day. Families are walking around together. They're forced to eat dinners back at home together. The family unity is being strengthened. The educational unit is being strengthened. Now, yes, we are going to have to make sacrifices. That's, I think, my whole point of this pitch today. All right. That future is not written. But if we cave into that other side of doubt and disbelief and despair, that future will be a very bleak, grim one. Okay, we are writing this future actively as I'm speaking these words, as I'm allowing my tongue to be led to deliver whatever should be delivered right now. That's what should be focused on. We're building that future. We're building it right now. And keep a rational mind about yourself. Okay, Sean and I just got off a call recently that was saying, like, look, there's even for the pure libertarians out there, there's even a Rothbardian way to make the argument that as far as government's ability to shut you down, you could do that. I'm not saying to do that right now. I'm saying pay attention to the stats. Pay attention to the voluntary nature of what these what the medical professionals are telling you. Okay, we can get through this if we have these mitigating factors. Look at it this way: within these mitigating factors, we are coming back to a way of community, of life that we used to love, that we used to hold so dear, that shining city in the hill type example type thing, right? Through these mitigating factors, it's forcing us to focus on again of what's important, and to cherish what we used to believe in and not take for granted or for any of the stuff that we lost before. Dude, the next time I watch a college football game, Sean, that's going to be one of the sweetest things that I'll be able to flip on, right? We got to the point where we're just burning through some of this stuff, man. So I'm saying, like, don't force Governor Lee to do it for you. Don't force him to send these troops in here. Do it yourself. Pay attention to what the experts in this field are saying, and in so doing, focus on the things, the opportunities that you're getting out of this, right?
Absolutely. Well, and then something that's really that I just took away from what you said, Mr. Henry, something that's very interesting is, a lot of people before this relied on various multi-layered institutions to hold up their whole life. A lot of those have been stripped away, and family is one of the things that a lot of people are having to lean on, where you could have leaned on job or a lot of these other things throughout your day and all these different things. And it's really cool that one of the institutions that it shows its strength, the institution of family. And not to disparage anyone who's, I hope nobody's at home alone, but if you are, call a family member and tell them you love them today. Family stuff, at least for me recently, is going a long way for me, helping me deal with everything. But
I like this back and forth in the comment section here too. Kelly saying people are finding out how awesome homeschool really is, and Stephanie followed up by saying, or they're finding out how much they should really thank their teachers. Yeah, that's true. Thank their teachers, their children's teachers. And I'm telling you, some of these things now, right? You're seeing as far as a calling or not a calling. Oh man. Let me go to a little bit of what Mayor Jacobs has been saying though, because this is actually some interesting stuff to hear. Some of these
Hey,
stats in particular.
and let me ask if you can, Mr. Henry, if it's not too difficult when you're sharing and reading those articles, pull it up so everybody can see it. That way too, they can maybe
Oh
search
yeah,
for it
yeah, no worries.
and read along at home.
Yeah, let me go ahead and let me see,
But
bring
this
up a little
was
bit.
just as you're pulling it up, I'll tee up the conversation a little bit because it's part of a kind of a larger conversation that we're showing a little microscope on. I think there's a healthy conversation going on between the economic cost and the health cost. And I do want to assure the listeners out there. I was listening to Dr. Burks yesterday on Ben Shapiro's show, and the economic team and the health team at the White House are working together. They're both used to working with data in real time. They weigh the concerns going back and forth, and those two groups have kind of the most authority at the moment to have the ear of the president. But that's on a kind of a micro scale. But on the macro scale, I think it's a conversation happening across America. It's unfortunate that it's a little bit partisan. That seems weird. It just seems like we need to figure out the balance between economy and health, and what's kind of the worst thing. But entering into that conversation was Knox County's own Mayor Glenn Jacobs, with with what he said, shocking report
Yeah,
on
and we'll
Friday.
jump around. It's about a 9 minute, 10 minute video, so we'll jump around a little bit. But just to start with, if you don't know who this is, we have some listeners all around the state. We have some actual international listeners as well. This is the county mayor of Knox County, and yes, that is Glenn Jacobs, also known as former WWF, was then WWF, now WBE wrestler Kane. If he looks familiar to some of our international folks, that might be the reason why. Here's a little bit from County Mayor Glenn Jacobs, though, if I can unmute it.
Here in East Tennessee, we saw what our community was made of during the 2016 Great Smoky Mountain wildfires. Man, did we ever step up. It got to the point to where charitable organizations were turning donations away because of the overwhelming response. During this COVID-19 crisis, we are doing the same thing. I applaud everyone's efforts. Opportunities to volunteer and help your neighbors abound right now. Please visit www.volunteeretn.org to see how you can help. Two specific organizations that I'd like to talk about this week are Knox County Mobile Meals and Zoo Knoxville. Mobile Meals is always looking for volunteers to deliver meals to shut-ins. Please visit knoxseniors.org/mobile or call 865-524-2786 for more information. Zoo Knoxville also needs your assistance.
All right, now this right here, Sean, is important to pay attention to for me. I let that mobile meal stuff play out because I think it's important to deliver that information, especially to the people of Knox County.
Absolutely.
Right? Ways you can involve, ways you can help, real outpouring of I don't know, just humanitarian efforts. If you have the ability to give, please certainly give right now. As my whole screen just reset, that was absolutely perfect, wasn't it? Anyways,
Oh, we can still see you. We can still see you good.
Oh no, I just meant I had it paused right at that spot where I wanted him to roll into the Knox zoo situation. But yeah, again, I just wanted that to play out so people could hear the ability to where to give humanitarian efforts, volunteerism, all that other type of stuff. As I'm loading this back up again here, we actually on the Facebook page as well. While this sort of reloads, why not? I'll do this for him. But on the Facebook page, the homepage here, if you want to, just click on Real News on the side here if you want. You can actually see at the very top of our Facebook page. Here we go. Come on. This is internet right now, isn't it, y'all? Right here, okay? This is something that we got going on here. Real News, Strength of Communities give together. All this, 100% of anything that you donate goes directly to these households that are look 150% below the federal poverty line, can accept these transfers, and actually have hardships that are directly due to this COVID-19 situation going on right now. And
yep, and that's pinned to the very top of the Real News Facebook page. Check that out. Me and Mr. Henry can vouch for it's a great organization. The money will get to the people who need it. But I'll while Mr. Henry's setting that up, I'll elaborate on Mayor Glenn Jacobs' point that time and time again, Tennessee shows they can step up to a crisis. In ways that the nation has seen, and in other ways there's been times where stuff doesn't make the national news, and it's still amazing. I mean, I remember during those remember the great hailstorm back in like 2010 or 11.
Right.
I mean, we made the news, but what stuff that I saw that didn't make the news, there were people taking off work all over East Tennessee and going helping people clear their yards or clear stuff out of businesses, helping people. There were electricians I knew of that were putting people's services back on their house for either really cheap or minimal price. But anyway, Tennesseans step up time and time, and we just saw it with the tornadoes. We saw it in 2016 with the wildfires. We step up and we know how to deal with a crisis. And Tennesseans are also, at the point is really should be made. Tennesseans are incredibly generous as well. But if you're ready, I'm ready, Mr. Henry.
Yeah, let's go ahead. We'll pick up that from Mayor Glenn Jacobs here.
.org/mobile or call 865-524-2786 for more information. Zoo Knoxville also needs your assistance. The zoo voluntarily closed on March 16th to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Memberships and paid guests make up a whopping 86% of the zoo's operating dollars. So the people are gone, but the animals and the cost of their feed and care are still there. Every day the zoo is closed, they lose $22,500. The zoo is Knox County's #1 tourist attraction. I have no idea what would happen to these exotic animals if the zoo is forced to close permanently. With County Commission's approval, I am proposing that we loan the zoo $500,000 from our hotel motel fund.
All right, now real quick, Sean, that's what I wanted to comment on here, okay? I mean, look, the fact that Knox County, the highest funded tourist attraction that they have is the zoo. You know what I'm saying? $23,000 a day that they're losing there. That is outrageous. I feel terrible saying this, and tell me if I'm wrong, buddy, but I had no idea. I simply had no conception that the Knox County Zoo, one, was going to be losing that much, and two, again, I feel bad saying this, but I had no idea the Knox County Zoo was the highest rated, or the most,
the #1 tourism attraction?
Yeah, the #1 visited tourist attraction in Knox County.
So you're telling me that you weren't just blown away that it wasn't the Women's Hall of Fame? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because I thought it was the women's. I'm just kidding. But actually, it's actually kind of surprising that if it's the #1 tourist attraction, it's only losing $22,000 a month. That's actually
that is true.
That's kind of surprising.
I think he said a day.
Or a day. I'm sorry,
yeah.
A day. Which is, I guess, if you add it up over time, that is incredible. It just goes to show you that even with, if you would think if any mayor was not going to do that, it would be Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs. It just goes to show you the gravity and the breadth of the economic situation, how big the valley is becoming.
And this goes to my point yet one more time, y'all. Okay, again, the reason why the future is yet to be written, right? We've got a 101-year-old guy in Italy who was born in the Spanish flu in 1918, and now he contracted COVID-19 and he survived it. Another reason why the future is yet to be written, I'm telling you, is because, look, as unfortunate as it may sound, whoever's existing this generation right now, we do not have the luxury of sitting back on this. Especially the people that this illness is not going to affect as much as the other people, right? If you're younger and this illness is not going to be able to bring you down as it would with someone with, say, existing conditions, we do not have the luxury to stay out of this fight. We don't have the luxury to just sort of hang around and hope for the best type thing. That is not going to be what this generation's calling is. This generation's calling is, for me in particular, I'm talking to myself, hopefully through y'all, to be able to wake up to some of the realizations like, dude, I didn't even know the Knoxville Zoo would have a problem. Right now, luckily, Glenn Jacobs is going to be able to fund that through some other stuff that they had set aside. But this is just a small example of what I'm talking about, Shine. Where we have to stay involved. We have to stay up to date. We have to continually fight this thing. We have to listen to our medical experts. I don't think we have the ability to be able to step away and just sort of hope for the best. And I say that, Shine, because I know what I'm talking about here. Just trust me when I say this. I know what I'm talking about. The further you step away, the further you delve into that darkness, man, the further you start creating these fabricated realities that are not based in the real world. The more you do that, the more you start to become not just a recluse in itself, but you hide. You don't want to deal with the problems, man. You don't want to see them face on. That becomes depressing. The more depressed you get, the more we get these headlines of what you're actually seeing. Let me just get out of the screen right here. If I can figure out how to do this again, it doesn't matter. Let me get out of the screen. The headline that I'm looking at right now is this: Knox County Mayor recent suicide rate shocking. That's what Glenn Jacobs is about to address in this video here. All right, it's 9 suspected suicides in just the last 48 hours. You want to know how you address that head on, buddy? Unless I'm wrong, someone in the chat help me out with this too. But unless I'm wrong, you face it head on. You try and make order out of that chaos. You try and become a part of the solution, right? You vent about it to your buddies. You have some human interaction. You use the telemedicine stuff. Hopefully let's see, Governor Lee should be thankful for, to go do some telemedicine stuff with some therapy. Call a therapist friend of yours. I don't know. I don't know what the proper solution is for everybody. I just know that the solution is not to run from it, is not to hide from it. We do not have the luxury to not be in this charge right now. Right, Shine?
Absolutely. And I've tried to take initiative and just hit up people I know that if I couldn't remember if they lived alone or if you know what I'm saying. I've tried to just hit up my friends and see how they're doing. And I would encourage everyone out there. There's a lot of norms that were in place before this all happened that kind of need to be stripped away. And this is something that me and my buddy Nathan talk about a lot at our event we used to have called Thinking Together. Is we need to get rid of the idea that you have to have a reason to hit someone up. You don't need a utilitarian reason like you're going to meet up at a certain time and you need to figure it out or that you need to ask them a question. You can just hit people up, especially with all these people sitting in front of their computers all the time. You just hit people up for no reason, say how you doing. Just going to see how you're doing. Or what'd you do today? Because I'm running out of stuff to do. What did you do today? Or, oh, you're still working. Congratulations. How's work going? How are they dealing with it? But I think reaching out to people is the best thing to do. And don't assume too that everybody that you know has everything all together too. Some people may be putting, I mean, especially now that we're moving to everyone kind of living on social media, I think there'll be, just like there was before, there's an attempt to show your best self on social media.
Yes, dude, right?
You know? So don't assume everybody has it all put together. Check on people regularly, even people you think are really strong. Check on those people too and ask them how they're doing. And just get in the habit of doing that, especially with your close friends. You know, I hit up Mr. Henry more times a day than he probably likes, to be perfectly honest.
No, man,
but
never.
I think that's how we deal with it is you know, we need each other. We were never meant to do this thing alone. And
Yeah.
we really need each other. And I'm glad that even though the number in Knox County, I don't want to overblow it with this story. It's still in the single digits, guys. I mean, but that's still a lot in a short period of time. I'm glad that the county mayor is taking those single digits and not looking at them as a statistic, but as those are people. Those are all people. This is a problem. We should look at it head on, recognize it, and do what we can do to mitigate that problem. But that's what I'm saying. This is part of the larger debate of the economic situation versus the health situation, or in conjunction with the health situation. And I'm glad to see the kind of from the top to the bottom. Even here in the state of Tennessee, I mean, we just had Congress pass that legislation. I know none of these things are perfect, but I think the cost of waiting and doing the perfect thing would have been too high a cost. I'm glad to see people having boldness, bravery, getting at it. I mean, even him talking about helping out the zoo. I'm not necessarily against that, even though if you'd asked me 6 months ago if someone did that, I'd be okay with it. I probably would have said no, but we got to do anything we can do right now. Because there's no time to wait, I guess, you know. And
Yeah,
stuff.
and there's going to be a lot of there's going to be a lot of things coming up in the future where you're not exactly going to understand if it's a Democrat Republican thing. You're not exactly going to understand if this is a right thing, wrong thing, and I would say that's okay. It's worthwhile to spend time on those issues where you don't exactly know, because again, we're going back to periods of first principles here, right? We're going back to a period where maybe I used to joke around all the time when Shine and I were on air. We used to do this program called Real News. It was on the talk radio program, and I used to mess around because stuff was so insanely volatile then. For fabricated issues, for nonsense. It was volatile for stuff that we just said we were disagreeing about. But dude, none of it mattered. None of it mattered at the end of the day. And I got so frustrated with this idea of a cult of personality, right? Where people are following individuals as opposed to policy. People were following an R or a D as opposed to what the legislation actually did. No one was following what the actual what the principles behind it were. They were just asking, did it come from Alexander Cortez or did it come from Donald Trump? And I was like, look, let's just throw out a blind legislation party, okay? Like, don't tell me who the sponsor or the co-sponsor of the bill is. Just pass the thing, and then we could do like an American Idol reveal night one night, right, where everybody calls in, votes. I think it's going to go this way. I think it's going to, or I think this person sponsored it, or this person co-sponsored it, and then at the end of the night, you reveal who the sponsor was, and you get to shove your finger in somebody's face saying, "I swear, I knew you were a Bernie supporter, or I knew you were a Trump supporter." All right, this is what I'm saying. That period of time is going to come, not where we're doing blind legislation, bro, but where we're getting to these first principles in the hearts of some of these matters. All right, and again, let me play this situation of dealing with the reality of some of the stuff that we're in.
Well, the reason, well, it'll go back to first principles is we'll be dealing with a different reality, and we'll need to build the reality from the baseline at the foundation. That's why you got to use first principles. And I think so much is in chaos, but it's like you said, it's an opportunity for things to be more ordered than they were than even before this. But yeah, please continue.
Right, and I was going to let's see here. Let me go ahead and bring some more of Glenn Jacobs back up here. He's talking about a bit of the economic implications as to what's going on. Again, this is just the Knox County area, but it's sort of extrapolate this across the rest of the state, and you'll get a sense here, Zach.
Of a prolonged lockdown are being taken into account. The Associated Press is reporting that nearly 3.3 million Americans applied for unemployment last week. That is almost 5 times the previous record set in 1982. 5 times. Christopher Ragaber writes, layoffs are sure to accelerate as the U.S. economy sinks into a recession. Revenue has collapsed at restaurants, hotels, movie theaters, gyms, and airlines. Auto sales are plummeting, and car makers have closed factories. Most such employers face loan payments and other fixed costs, so they're cutting jobs to save money. As job losses mount, some economists say the nation's unemployment rate could approach 13% by May. By comparison, the highest jobless rate during the Great Recession, which ended in 2009, was 10%. By now, we are all familiar with the charts showing the computer-generated model of the spread of COVID-19. Here's another chart that we should be familiarizing ourselves with. This is weekly unemployment claims over the past 50 years. This is completely unprecedented. In addition, according to Bloomberg, more than 47,000 retail shops have closed over the past 2 weeks. Sadly, many of these closings won't be temporary, especially when it comes to small business. This is all very concerning. Thus far, our reaction to COVID-19 has been to sacrifice the global economy. In fact, I've heard people say things like, you can either have a healthy economy or healthy people. This is a false dichotomy. The truth is, a sick economy produces sick people. From a public health perspective, we know that the greater one's income and wealth, the lower your likelihood of disease and premature death. We also know that high unemployment is linked to higher suicide rates. According to the World Economic Forum, a recent study shows that the impact of unemployment was strongest in countries which enjoyed comparatively low unemployment rates before the crash.
All right, I let that play for a minute there, Shine, because I think this, tell me if I'm wrong, buddy, but this is a very difficult conversation, especially right now, for some people to try and get their head around. And that conversation being the realization that the longer that we play this out with the extreme, obvious, necessary, pertinent concern of looking towards human life, the longer we're going to stall out this thing of a sort of impending economic crisis, okay? And the longer we push that impending economic crisis out, not only the worse it'll be, but we can actually cause more health concerns that way. So this is what I'm saying, buddy. Like, this is an extremely difficult conversation to even start right now. I mean, the volatility that just surrounds by just even right now, I'm feeling it myself as I'm talking about it, saying like someone that could be watching this later on is thinking, Mr. Henry, are you not concerned about what's going? Yes, dude, obviously. But somebody needs to start having the conversation at some point of saying, like, how long do we play out this economic stall for the sake of potentially staving off what's going to come from this COVID-19, only to shoot ourselves in the economic foot later on, which could cause even more major health concerns. You get what I'm saying? So I guess my 2 cents in this would be, as you're being reasonable and rational with what's going on over here in the health situation, man, be generous, be giving, buy stuff, dude. Like in the ways that you can, and the ways that we've been told is still okay to do. I'm not gonna. I don't pretend to be part of the medical community, so I'm not gonna pretend to jump in that world. But in the ways that we've been told we can still buy stuff over here, dude, spend, 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 spend. All right, I've got expendable income right now. I'm not an economics expert, so tell me if I'm wrong, buddy. But we got these two balls up here floating around, and one of them we haven't even started to have that conversation yet, man.
Well, I know that at least with my fiance and I, even though I have plenty of food to cook, and I'm actually getting food delivered now too, but like 2 or 3 nights a week, we're purchasing from a restaurant where a friend of ours works.
Hmm.
A different one every night, and unfortunately, twice now I've gotten food for the last time at some of my favorite restaurants because they're closed now, like for good. They're closed. And I agree with Mr. Henry. I don't know if you should go out and buy stuff you don't need, but you need
Right.
food. You
Right.
need food. And even be conscious too about like if there's places that are, if like local gas stations, local whatever, those people are hurting a lot harder than, let's say, than grocery stores that are part of the national infrastructure at the moment. So if you can buy from some of your local business owners, please do that, because you're not only supporting them, you're supporting anyone else they're supporting, which is important. But Mr. Henry, you're right. It's such a black morass. I mean, as far as the debate between the economic crisis versus the health crisis, and making sure that they don't make each other worse, or that we're you know what I'm saying, or are bad independently of each other because of focusing on one and not the other in the incorrect way. I will say this: anyone who's ever said they could run the country, I bet you wouldn't want to be running it right now.
Mm.
I mean, we these are public servants; they do stuff for us. But man, I'd hate to have the weight on my shoulders. I don't want to uplift them, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't want to put them too much on a pedestal or whatever, but I'm really appreciative for the ones we have, and I wouldn't want to be them right now. And I know it. At least there was a young shine 10 years ago that was just like, oh, I could do it better.
Mm.
I'm so smart. So I'm thankful for the people that we have that are handling this crisis, and I wouldn't want to be them, because it's an ugly debate, let alone the actual decisions that have to be made, Mr. Henry.
And
Because
again,
the debate's ugly, and then having to choose one thing over the other when the consequences are dire. I mean, that's tough.
let me stress one more time too. I'm not trying to even sensationalize this myself here. I'm hopefully trying to downplay this a little bit and make this into a thing where we can get our heads around it and react to it rationally and reasonably and responsibly. Previous generations, buddy, let's be for real. They have faced far worse as far as I'm concerned. And even the models that are going forward right now, even as compared to other world pandemics, the world has faced far worse before. Again, let me go to Butterfield one more time, that he quotes when some of those things have happened in previous generations, what those societies have done out of it. And if you think if you think I'm being weird here about some of this talk of just like seizing the moment, seizing the time, that weird trick it does psychologically, it might be subtle at first, but if you let that seep in for a second or so, and each day you let it seep in a little bit more of the optimism, the hope, the belief, that subtle little whisper thing will turn into something, man, and I'm telling you, it overwhelms all of who you are. Butterfield said again, the ancient Hebrews, by virtue of inner resources and unparalleled leadership, turn their tragedy, turn their very helplessness into one of a half dozen creative moments in world history that will never be forgotten. It would seem that one of the clearest and most concrete of the facts of history is the fact that men of spiritual resources may not only redeem catastrophe, but turn it into a grand creative moment. Now is our moment. Now is our time. I'm not just saying like go out and buy, a delivery service that can still be delivered if you need to. If you feel so called and compelled to do so, bro, and you know somebody that just lost their job down the street, hit them up with a Venmo real quick, right? Give them a call, see how they're doing. pull through this together. It is these collective little bodies and groups that's going through right now that is going to get us through this economic turmoil that Glenn Jacobs, you just heard him pitch. You can look for the charts yourself, buddy, okay? You can see from 1967, these unemployment ticks go, pinging around here. And then literally in the last 2 weeks, when you say the old adage of off the charts, you're pinging between this to 3 million claims in a matter of weeks or so. You can't, it does not register on the scale from 1967 to now. We're incoming for something that's going to be a major, major problem, but do not fear in that. There is no fear in that. Through this collective nature of submission to the security we have in each other, the security we have in all of us, working through this together, there is no fear when you have that great shepherd going through, right? Of course, I'm pulling some biblical language here, Sean, but if you don't like the shepherd analogy, supplant it with just like 200 million conscious Americans doing the right thing for their fellow man. Even if you want to believe in that, dude, there is nothing we can't accomplish. Our medical community will figure out the vaccine thing for this. They will figure out the herd immunity thing for this. They will figure out what happens next fall, whatever. And we're going to have to work through that, okay? But if you pour into the dire doubt, if we all do that together, it's going to be way worse than it ever could have. And not only will it be way worse, dude, we'll miss a fantastic opportunity to progress as a species, an incredible opportunity that's rarely been given to civilizations, to societies before us, dude. We are on the precipice of major, fundamental, going forward change to reset and reroute everything that America stands for, that we individuals stand for. Like, dude, if you don't like the politics of it, break free from it, man. Make it about another human being here, because I'm telling you, the stats Glenn Jacobs just gave was true. But if we can't have the conversation about what he's saying is also true, the economic problem, then we got a problem, man. We're going to have to get our heads around real controversy and make order out of real chaos, right?
Absolutely, Mr. Henry. I really believe that this is a time where we'll be writing history during this and after this. People will look back at what we do here and what we do after here, not necessarily because it's so great. Hopefully it is great. But they'll be looking back at it because it mattered, because there is a lot of chaos. The economy is being remade so we can deal with this problem, and then it'll have to be unwound from that, and then be retooled to meet market needs, whatever the needs are at the time. But in that space where things are being kind of reordered, to use that order and chaos analogy that you're playing with, as things are being reordered, we have a chance to improve on the past, but also be ready for the future. And I think what being ready for the future and improving on the past means right now for people is being there for each other, not wasting resources, not being stupid and spreading the virus, you know what I mean? Or, those kind of things. Those are things we can do. And some of those things are things we can actually do, which makes it empowering, makes it feel like you're not just adrift on the ocean. You're actually steering your ship. So I encourage you to find things that you can do that make you feel empowered, whether that's like, I want to make sure that I have, enough, make sure I have a week's worth of food instead of a couple days worth of food in case I get sick, or I'm going to call my friend and see how they're doing and try to have a more than 5-minute conversation, actually really see how they're doing and connect. I'm going to plan on connecting with other people. Anything you can do, there are things you can actually tangibly do those things. It'll help you through this. And hanging out with us, hopefully, we're trying to make a place where you can gather around, and maybe, Mr. Henry, we should check out the chat a little bit. We've been ignoring that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We've been ignoring that some.
Teresa says, us too, lots of takeout. Michael saying, do not live in fear. When possible, please try to support your local businesses. Teresa goes on to say, shout out to Longhorn Steakhouse. Last night was excellent. But helping small businesses too, helping anything, like even if you help a chain beside you, that's fine. If you want to help your local Outback, you're at least helping those servers and those cooks at those local Outbacks, right? And again, I also want to stress too, I'm going to play the last 2 or 3 minutes here of this Glenn Jacobs response. Again, this came on Friday, but I just want to say, to set an expectation for a return to normalcy, okay? But set an expectation for not just a return to normalcy, but a return to something far greater than you ever should have or could have expected from yourself even, okay? There will be a time, whether it's next month, the month after that, or the year after that, I don't care what it is, but there will be a time where as Americans and Tennesseans, we are going to get back to normal life. And when that happens, what are you going to do during this period of preparation now? again, during that biblical, example, right? What are you going to do during your period of preparation when the time of strong harvest comes? I think that's what we're currently in. What are you going to do during this period of preparation to make yourself better, to shirk off and burn off the things that you don't need to mend relationships that you may need mending from the past, right? To look forward, to say, like, maybe there's a possibility we're going to be left with a lot less Americans than we did prior to coming into this period. So as we go out, let's make all of us be the best Americans we ever were. Teach yourself something new is what I'm saying. Learn a new language, learn a new course, better yourself, read a new book, have a conversation with a friend that you haven't had in a very long time, specifically because you disagree about political opinions. I don't care, but make yourself better going forward. And Shine and I are going to be delivering some stuff that is getting people back into the sense and stance of normalcy. All right. There was bills we were working on in the Tennessee legislature that were going to drastically improve life in Tennessee. We're going to be bringing some of that stuff back up. That's not to not paint light on COVID-19 stuff, because people need a break from that a little bit, Shine. They do. They need a break to focus on something that's Tennessee related, that's going to happen when we get back to normal life. They want to know, what does this state look like when we go forward? I want to inform as many people as possible about some of these good bills that we're going to possibly be working on or talking about, or stories of returning back to normal life. So when we do return back to normal life, this state will not just be better than it ever has been because of the words that we follow on a piece of paper, but because of the people that are following those words, man. I'm telling you, are going to be better trained than they ever were before. And I'll let you comment unless you just want to finish out the rest of what Mayor Jacobs has to say. Let me know.
Yeah, let me get in here on that. I think it'll be great for people to just spend time envisioning the normal world. You know what I'm saying? You said,
yeah.
Just spending time saying, well, what does that look like, and how can I affect it in the best way? But I think that's totally true, Mr. Henry. I think people need to think about other things. They also need to be connected to what's going on. They need to think about how they can have a positive effect on reality, just like we talked about it on an individual level there, but then taking it up to more of a macro level with your state government or federal government. We're definitely going to bring you those resources, and we're happy to do so. I mean, I imagine, Mr. Henry, when they get this next phase 4, is it phase 4 or phase 3? But either way, the next round of federal legislation, we'll be releasing at least some things to help you get through the weeds on that, I assume, when all that comes up. So we'll be definitely giving you those things. Also, too, Mr. Henry, I played, just some random YouTube videos the other night over the weekend. I didn't do anything. Right. Anything that I would do over the weekend, I'm gonna try to, as far as video, probably won't be political. Like I was playing a Jordan Peterson, the first in his biblical series. I think it was Introduction to the Eye of God and to the Idea of God. But the next one, it'll either be later this week or this weekend, will be Order and Chaos, kind of in the theme we are right now. So, I mean, we need stuff that take us out of the news digest, even though it's good to be informed. But do take breaks. I took a break yesterday, and it was excellent.
Yeah. Let's see.
But
here.
Yeah, let's get back to Glenn Jacobs.
Yeah, before I do, Stephanie said we've been posting it on Twitter every time we buy local and tagging the chamber. Nice. Yeah, that's a good idea. Tagging the chamber, too. We should start a hashtag. I love that. That's an awesome idea, right? Buy local, tag your chamber every single time. That's great, man.
That's a great idea.
Teresa says we've been watching Joe Exotic. Never laughed so hard. I don't know what that is. What is Joe Exotic? Is that the tiger thing everyone's talking about on Netflix? Do you know what it's like? Tiger?
Yeah,
tiger?
Yeah, Katie watched some of it, I think. The tiger show. I don't know. Everybody's talking about the tiger. Catching the tiger by the tail.
Right.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to Ray. He's been in our Twitch chat. Saying,
oh, nice.
Let's see here. Where is he's asking where his test is? Let's see. He said gold's at $1,600 an ounce. Anyway, thanks for watching us on Twitch there, Ray. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's one more plug here, too. Whatever fits best for your life. This is major shout out. And then again, we really will get back to Glenn Jacobs. Major shout out to my buddy Shine here on the other side of my screen that you're seeing. Everything tech side oriented you're seeing set up. This kid is like a whiz working on the back end with it. I would take me probably a solid half year to figure some of this stuff out, but we're on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, all live right now. Obviously, every single one of these platforms has uploading, cloud computing capacity, whatever. The point being is all that stuff lives forever on those sites later on. So if it's easier for you to check us out on YouTube, check it there. Facebook, we can check it here. I'll totally forgot to bring up the comment section for YouTube today, but I'll try and stay on board with some of those.
We haven't had any YouTube comments. In fact, next time, Mr. Henry, I'll send you a link. I have a unified chat in front of me.
Get out.
I have
Really?
all the platforms. But yes, thank y'all so much for watching. Well, I kind of have Twitch on there for people who may have gotten banned from Facebook. Maybe.
So if you're in
So
Facebook
if you
jail,
ever
right?
get banned from Facebook, you can go watch it on our Twitch when we broadcast.
That's awesome. Kelly's saying she loves Jay Peterson, loves Jordan Peterson. That's just my appeal to people, to like not just return to normalcy, but to return to like something that gives you stability. All right. That's another thing, the lesson that I've learned right now too, of stability in like function, or stability in the form of your life, or stability in I don't know, the psychologies you follow. And of course, Mr. Henry is obviously alluding to the stability of what I believe is like the objective worldview of that Christian standard that I'm setting. And that may not be helpful to some of you. It may not. But if it is, I'm saying like stability, and that's where I find my hope in, is something that's stable, that I can constantly set on a rock, that'll be there when the next step. It's all at this point, Shine, it's all just about taking that next step each and every day, just putting a single foot in front of the other. And if we do that enough times in a row, and if enough people do that enough times in a row, dude, we are overwhelming and overcoming anything. I'm preaching on the same lessons here. Let me get back to Glenn Jacobs so we can actually do a news show, because that's apparently what this is. Here we go. Let me get back to Glenn as we load this up. That was a beautiful
Hey,
transition.
like us on Facebook if you haven't already. Like us and like
Right.
the video.
Here's a bit more of Glenn Jacobs' circle. Here we go.
All very concerning. Thus far, our reaction to COVID-19 has been to sacrifice the global economy. In fact, I've heard people say things like, you can either have a healthy economy or healthy people. This is a false dichotomy. The true
We heard him talk about
unemployment
that.
rates before the crash. Before COVID-19, the U.S. had record low unemployment. So we expect to see a surge in suicides, something that we are already experiencing at our Knox County Regional Forensic Center. Last year, our medical examiner performed autopsies for 199 confirmed or suspected suicides from across the region, with 83 of those coming from Knox County. Over the past 48 hours, that office has now examined 9 suspected suicides, 8 of which are from Knox County alone. For Knox County, that's almost 10% of last year's total number in the past 2 days alone. That number is utterly shocking and makes me wonder, is what we are doing now really the best approach? How can we respond to COVID-19 in a way that keeps our economy intact, keeps people employed, and empowers our people with the feeling of hope and optimism, not desperation and despair? COVID-19 is new and something that we have never dealt with before, and it is dangerous. We should all be responsible and follow the guidelines that are being prescribed. Don't leave home if you're sick. Practice good hygiene. Wash your hands often. Cough into your sleeve. If you don't need to go out, don't go out. When it comes to protecting our more at-risk populations, we need to be extraordinarily careful. As individuals, we must exercise personal responsibility to protect our health, the health of our loved ones, and the health of our neighbors and the community at large. While keeping these things in mind, we also must keep in mind the words of the Wall Street Journal's editorial board. No society can safeguard public health for long at the cost to its economic health. We can have healthy people and a healthy economy if all of us are willing to work together to make it happen.
Look, I'm going to stop right there, because I think that's a good place to stop for Glenn Jacobs, a good place for us to give some commentary on that, because that's exactly where I'm at right now. All right. We can have both a healthy economy and healthy individuals. And a major component of this whole COVID-19 situation that I believe is being overlooked, and part, again, the reason why we entitled this program "The Future Is Yet to Be Written." The future has yet to be written. We are actively writing it right now with everything we say, every step we take. Set that next step on some type of stone, some type of strong foundation, and just only worry about that next step. That's all you got to do. I promise you, that's all you have to do. You don't have to try and deal with the overwhelming nature of what's going to happen 2 months from now, what's going to happen 6 months from now, what's going to happen with if our healthcare system is overloaded. That's not what we're called to be doing right now. What we're called to be doing right now is literally focusing on human relations and what can I be doing the very next step to make myself better and to make my community better. And if you catch wind of somebody thinking bad thoughts, of looking to do something they shouldn't do, of posting weird stuff on social media, man, I don't know, reach out to them. We'll tag the National Suicide Hotline Prevention in this thing after I get off here. I'll update that later on, because I'm telling you, the stats that you just heard Glenn Jacobs give, County Mayor Glenn Jacobs give, are, I don't have the word for it. Any word I would possibly think I could use would be underwhelming and would do a disservice to those statistics he just gave. 9 people in a 48-hour period. What he said, that's more than 10%, or I don't even know the numbers, but it's beyond a problem. And of course, it's a combination of a multitude of things going on. It's the economic situation, it's the fear driven behind some of the media sensationalism, and it's also the very real situation that we have to deal with, a potential economic downside with an actual legitimate pandemic. These are real things. But again, for those that are not suffering with that right now, for those that are strong, healthy mentally, you do not have the luxury to step out of this right now. We need you. We absolutely need you to pick this up to help out some fellow people. All right, we need you to take on, I don't know, this Butterfield quote that I was looking at before. All right, like, look, many great men. Men may live to a great age of day, comparative quietness, and peaceful progress without ever having to come to grips with universe, without ever vividly realizing the problems and the paradoxes with which human history so often confronts us. We of the 20th century have been particularly spoiled. For the men of the Old Testament, the ancient Greeks, and all the ancestors down to the 17th century betray their philosophy and their outlook, a terrible awareness of the chronicles of human life, the ways and things we have to get through, and the precarious nature of man's existence and the riskiness of this universe. Very few people or individuals before had the opportunity to truly address what is truth. That's where we are right now. All right. And we cannot have some of our best slipping away from us. We cannot have some of our best because they're focusing too much on, I don't know, even just the reports of suicide alone, or the reports of the economic situations alone. Yes, it's going to get a little bit bad. That's true. But through the collective nature of every single one of us, of focusing on positivity, of doing the stuff that China are doing, and of returning to a sense of normalcy, we're going to be able to get this thing. And I'm telling you, whatever help you need from us, that's why I do that greatest audience in the nation appreciation thing. That's why we do that to start this program, is to check on y'all, to see how y'all are going. And I just want to end that with Glenn Jacobs there to say, like, again, there is a way we can focus on having a healthy economy and focus on having a decent healthcare system, healthy individuals at the same time. It's just going to take a concerted, strong, purposeful approach by every single one of us. Now's not the time to drop the ball. You know what I'm saying, Sean?
Absolutely, and I think we've covered that well, Mr. Henry. I think that it was a real eye opener to see that report from Glenn Jacobs, and it's something that I'm glad got more national attention, because it adds a dynamic that needed to be talked about when you're talking about nurses and doctors and PPEs and ventilators and respirators. It needs to be thrown in there too, that there's a human cost to people not being able to work. And but anyway, I think that we've covered that pretty well, and I appreciate you putting so much emphasis on that today, because I know a lot of people needed to hear it for sure.
Yeah, man.
Kind of going back to what we opened the show with Donald Trump saying, hey, we're going to be at home for 30 more days. And the reason we started Monday, by the way, with what we did, is because the news isn't going to get any better this week. For the next 2 or 3 weeks, it's not going to get better, but we're just going ahead and hitting you with now. Lean in on each other. We need each other. And also kind of don't read the news hysterically, but we'll keep you up to date on the things you need to know. I think the big news over the weekend, I think I posted it on the Real News Facebook page, was if you're not in the state you want to be in, you better be there already. They've shut down. Did you see the pictures today from Florida, where I-95 was backed up because of checkpoints getting into Florida?
Yeah.
I have family in Tennessee that lives in Florida and is here in Tennessee to be around family, and I've recommended not going back until this is over, because I'd hate for them to get stuck out on the roads or stuck in a hotel in a city or county or state where they say, okay, now no one's allowed out to drive around, and then they're just stuck in a hotel. But all over the United States, there is a debate going on that has never gone on in the United States about closing borders between states. I mean, I don't think anyone's actually closed borders, but they can pull over people. The CDC has said what powers they have to recommend if people are going in between states at the border, telling them to quarantine if they're coming from a state that has high infection. But I just thought it was very interesting that we're having a debate that I thought we'd never have You know,
Right.
considering how the Commerce Clause has ruled the day for 100 years, it's interesting to see. It's so crazy that there was something that could disrupt the free movement of people, stuff, or money between states in the United States of America. It's really incredible and speaks to the gravity of what's going on.
Well, it's also like again before it's Trump hasn't given up that notion yet. Well, not
That's what I
entirely,
said.
then,
Where there's a
but
debate, no one's made any
right.
decisions, but it's a debate. Like in the news, him and Cuomo were talking. Cuomo basically said it would almost be like the federal government declaring war on New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
look, I think part of that too is goes to Teresa's comment. Michael says in the chat here, all I want is to point out that the news is only say to protect your health is isolation, nothing about educating people to stop this pandemic. I would say, I think just a quick response to that, I think part of that is because we're still compiling a lot of the data right now, and part of that is it's going to take a while to create these modeling. The best that we have right now, I think, is to look at a South Korea or something. But the major problem with that is South Korea and some of these other countries caught it at such an early time, 2 to 3 months earlier than we even tried to start making it an issue in the United States. And by that point, we're so much further behind. Our data is modeling is going to look substantially different than other countries might be. You have to take in the variables as well as to the healthcare system we're dealing with, the population size, the age or demographic nature of that population size, the density of where these things are being spread. That's going to Sean's point with with what's going on in New York City. And that's what I was going to say a second ago is, as far as I've heard, for the time being, President Trump says that he was just sort of floating that idea out there of fully, like I'm talking, shutting down all travel out of the northeastern area. What did he say? 3 states: New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, I think. Right now, he was just floating that over the weekend, quote unquote, there. And as of this morning, I want to say I heard him say, or maybe it was yesterday, I was watching one of the live updates, saying that he's no longer holding to that necessarily. Now, I don't know what that means, honestly. I don't know if the numbers are going to get worse here in the next couple of weeks and all of a sudden he's going to throw that idea back out there again. But I will say this much, man, like as far as that idea being precedent or not, look at what's going on in Italy. I mean, you could see a number of just video images of them, police vehicles trolling around major squares with just megaphones, just indicating to people, hey, by the way, stay in your rooms or something. So
well,
other countries are doing similar things.
there's
But
always been that in other countries while America's been going on.
right.
Grant, that's
Yeah.
always been a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been a thing. I just thought it was interesting to talk about that. That's never been a debate in the United States
Mm.
I mean, no matter how things got, except for the Civil War, I guess. Or maybe War of 1812. There might have been checkpoints between the states because there was fighting actually going on land. But very interesting, and it is interesting. I don't know. I think part of what's going on, Mr. Henry, is this is America. So when people discuss things in the high places, I think what they do is throw things out there to see how the public would deal with it,
Yeah. Right. Right.
and then use that as feedback to inform the discussion. Because I think in America, they don't take it for granted, and no country should, that people are just going to follow the orders of the government.
Right.
They don't take it for granted, and I think some people think that's a bad approach, but I think in the end it's going to serve us really well. For all those things to be in balance, the health issue, the economic issue, these freedom of movement things, are they enforceable? Will people self-enforce? Those are all things that are informing the decisions of our policymakers and our public servants. And I say it's great. It's not perfect, but it's not China. It's not Italy. It's not some of the other places. I mean, who even knows what's going on in Russia, right?
Yeah.
Who even knows what's going on there? And you are seeing people trying to make moves. Vladimir Putin said over the weekend that the world would never trust America again, or something like that. Just really using the fact that we have the most cases as an argument that we don't know what we're doing. Even, I mean, kind of taking the the route that even some news organizations in the United States are taking, that the fact that we have so many cases like almost makes us a third world country or something, when the obvious reality is we have the biggest testing capacity because we are America, the government, and we are America, the businesses, and we are America, the people. All those things, and there's a lot of power in all those things, and that has produced results like lots of people being tested, lots of PPE being made. And I don't know, I think the fact that people are stepping up to fight it, as opposed to hiding their numbers like Russia and China isn't a
Right.
sign of weakness.
No, and see that's another problem that I think we're having right now is even just the reliability of the information that's being reported. You can already tell. I mean, we've already had headlines talking about one of the main models that came out initially was based upon some of those initial numbers of reporting from either say China or otherwise that had to be remodeled afterwards, right? That had to be remodeled because of just the inaccuracy of the reporting. And who knows how accurate some of those China numbers are, or I don't know, the Russian numbers. We would hope that some of the South Korean numbers are going to be a little bit more accurate than others. But again, there's ways to stymie some of this stuff off. I mean, we may have done it wrong here. We're getting a handle on it currently, but look at what's happening in South Korea. I mean, there's still basically business as normal over there, or business as usual. Obviously, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Obviously, there's a very clear situation going on in South Korea, but for the most part, man, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. They were able to segregate. They were able to isolate. We actually put an article on the Real News page here. There was an NPR report that was basically showing, hey, we tested these people early. We had them quarantined off early. We found the people that had contact with them early, and we didn't let this thing leak out a little bit. So if and when something does come back in the fall or whatever, you hope that America would be more poised to deal with this than almost any other country going forward. We got to deal with the situation currently, though. We absolutely have to deal with this situation currently, and we also have to be able to figure out like what's being politicized and what's not, bro. I mean, this has essentially come down to an Andrew Cuomo, President Trump like presidential run in the midst of all this stuff, which is a very interesting sideline narrative that's just like it's throwing much more chaos into this conversation, right?
It has, but I want to encourage people as far as the getting ready. We're doing it. I mean, checks are being sent out to people who are not working. They'll be debating the wisdom of that for years, but those of us in the moment know that it was a good idea, I think. Now, people will debate on the number, but either way, I think it was a good idea. We've expanded capacity for respirators and PPE. They're building field hospitals all over the United States. And as far as comparing us to South Korea, China, or Singapore or anything like that, Mr. Henry, the jury's still out.
Mm-hmm.
The jury's still out. I mean, because it's not like we have so many cases in the United States at the moment that if we hadn't declared this emergency, we would even notice. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're preparing for the future with all this stuff. I mean, that's something important to remember. We could have been doing nothing right now, and we would have just been hearing about some hospitals being full.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Which could also be the case in South Korea, which could also be the case in China or Singapore. And there's no way of knowing how bad it is until you have a significant geographical location, like a significant proportion of them all having the disease at the same time, and everyone needing needing to be in a hospital. And that hasn't really been the case anywhere yet. Everyone's just afraid that's going to happen. So, I think all those things are important. Context is really important to remember as you're reading these news stories. Don't read anecdotal news reports.
Yeah, that'll get you messed up. Right?
That'll get you messed up. You don't want to hear about the some little girl in France or some, older guy in Italy. You want to hear about data. You want to hear about that because that's how it really relates to you. I mean, I really believe it's true that the institutions are the ones that are in danger, but the United States has the strongest institutions in the world. If you're an individual, the danger for you, unless you are already in some kind of health danger, is very low. And I think those are the important things to remember. And also, if you want to get more into that debate on that we were talking about earlier in the show between economics and health, they covered it so well on Ben Shapiro's Sunday Conversation yesterday. I may even link that tomorrow. This conversation with Dr. Birx and how the economic team and the health team are working together, feeding in information from local governments, state governments, and really it's this really broad conversation. And I feel like it's good. I'm not sitting at home worried. I hope you're not either.
Well, and again, in these periods that have happened in American history before, we've seen how our economy has almost in a chameleon-like sense an ability to adapt, to change. I mean, you lose a tail, you grow it back type thing, right? I mean, seriously though, you've seen how American industry has been able to morph into something that's completely unseen before. I mean, look, goodness gracious, look what we did with the internet. Look what we did with the information age and technology age. Who in the right mind ever thought that Mark Zuckerberg, a little guy running Facebook or something like that, granted it was probably through the backing of some government controlled entity, I'll give you that, but fine. Who would have ever thought that your Facebooks and your Googles would have been the people running the economic side of all this stuff 40, 30 or 40 years ago even, right? I mean, there's going to be another phase that'll come out of this. And it's a conversation that needs to be had. It may not be one that we're ready to have right now. I want to be cognizant of that. I want to be aware that strikes people in the wrong way. I mean, because even Teresa's talking about in the Facebook here of saying trusting people to do the right thing. Wow, it's a little bit difficult thing to do right now, to trust people to do the right thing. There's that sort of lack of trust that's going on in general, that people are not inherently altruistic in the way that we would like them to be with this situation, especially, right? Of not staying in your home, of only going out for necessary things, of just for another month or so, or however long it's going to be, of trying to buckle down and do what's right for your neighbor, so your decisions don't harm somebody else's decisions. With all that, though, saying that some of the tests are being slow right here and some of the numbers are being off, right? Well, there's a way you can spin all that stuff, buddy. I mean, like even if their numbers are low by way of testing, fine. Then the more people that we're going to test means that the death rate drops. Okay, so all this stuff has a different spin on it, and I'll tell you right now, like it's a famous economic saying or whatever saying that you could work the numbers as hard as you want to get them to say whatever you want to. A good economist,
That's true.
I mean, a good spin person or whoever can sit in the back room with the numbers and punch them hard enough and twist them hard enough to get them to say whatever they want them to say. So it's going to be a difficult thing to figure out during this time period what they're actually presenting, what they're actually promoting, but we do have an economic situation we need to look after here. And some of the things that are going to come out of this are the ways that business models are able to morph and change into something new that we've never seen before is going to be a pretty fantastic thing. I speak from a little bit of experience because Sean and I are doing it right now, working for this company that you see behind us, right? Our bread and butter business model has been physical events, to get physical people in the same room as, say, legislators or otherwise, teach them and coach them up on some bill that's passing through the legislature. And as they ask their questions and everyone becomes aware of what's going on, then we hope to have conversations with legislators to make our state a better place. We can't do that anymore. We simply do not have the ability or capacity even to bring people into the same room. Like churches are having to branch out into their business model. The education stuff is having to branch out to a brand new business model. We're all having to adapt. And out of that adaptability is going to come pretty cool new products, bro, right? And with that being said, man, like, if you guys have any suggestions in the chat room as to who you would like to hear us talk to, who you would like to hear us interview, whether it's COVID-19 related or otherwise, if it's a local legislator, that Sean and I still have the connections to be able to tap like a Congressman Burchett or a Senator Blackburn or whoever else. If you want us to set something up high level like that to hear some from our national legislators, we're setting that up. We're reaching out to them. Some of our local legislators we're trying to do. Just industry experts on topics that are not COVID-19 related. Let us know all that stuff because, again, as we go forward, we're going to have to figure out new economic models that work, new conversations that work, and new products that pull us out of this stuff going forward, man. Because, again, we cannot sit and wallow right now. We don't have the luxury to be able to do that. But, Sean, I'll kick it off to you if you want to. I think we've been doing it for about an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah. You read my mind, Mr. Henry. I'm already playing the music. Something that does work is real news. Luckily, we didn't have to figure that out right now. We already knew how to do real news. What we're trying to figure out is how best to serve you. So stay in touch, stay tuned. We'll be on tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. and the rest of the week for 10 a.m. Big thanks to Mr. Henry. Big thanks to Americans for Prosperity for continuing to pay us so we can do this with you. Big thanks to all of you who watched us today. This has been Real News. I'm your host, David Shine Thompson, and Mr. Henry. We out. We'll see you in the morning.